It's that time again. Good evening. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. I'm Lucas. This is David. I'm in the old Michigan, and he's in the old Tennessee. And as of today, as we will cover later, I live in a freer state than he does, and I have a better governor, but that was an immediate upgrade upon moving. Anyway, we'll get into that. David, how are you, sir?
I mean, does she try and sell you anything while she's governor? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean,
I don't even know what the fuck she did before she was gone. I never bothered to look it up.
Enough. I mean, I'm definitely not buying an AC unit from ours.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
Dipshit governor. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's been a weird day for me. It's been like an angry day. I think it might have been an angry week. I just didn't know it until I sat down.
Oh no, I knew it'd been an angry week, mostly because I saw your text. Number one, I saw your Facebook posts, and then I saw your posts on Brewing Controversy, and I'm like, well, Lucas has a bug up his ass, doesn't he?
Even David was like, Jesus, dial back the language. And then he reminded me of some of his catchphrases, and I've decided that the compromise is that he's going to have to use some of his creative compound catchphrases more, and I will use my, at this point, uncreative, repetitious, angry words less. I don't know. Anyway, if you're new here, and there might be some new people here, there might be some haters here, because apparently some of the Blue Lives Matter holster sniffing, cop taint licking squad here in Grand Rapids has decided to follow the page and might watch the show. Who knows? But if you're a hater and you're here, nice to see you. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, feel free to chime in. We'd love to make fun of you.
Entertain the whole world.
Right.
Stupid please. To say
It'll
in front
be great.
Of everybody on the internet.
Absolutely great.
Anyway. If there are people of competent disagreement and interest in discussion, of course that's always welcome. But this is a show where a couple of angry leftists drink a bunch of craft beer and bitch about the state of the world. If you're here, feel free to say hello. We have some regulars that we like to see on a regular basis, hence the regulars. And we're glad to have them at any time. But we also encourage you, if you're new, not to be shy. So we start right off the top with a little happy hour. It's the hot take happy hour. And last week, I think, was the first time that we decided to be responsible grown-ups and commit it in front of people as a list so that they would know what the fuck it is that we're going to say. And we would know what the fuck it is we're going to say without squinting.
It's like going back to our text messages.
Looking at text messages and notes. And yeah.
What was I supposed to do?
Right. And David, you're first here. You have the first block of content.
Yeah. So before I'm going to take a drink before I start on this one. So Tennessee's abortion ban came into effect today. It is a ban on elective abortion. It is a ban on abortion in the case of rape, a ban on abortion in the case of incest, and a ban on abortion in case of danger to the mother. It is a 100% total ban.
Gotta have those rape babies and one-time use only.
I want to point out, they actually made it worse. They actually made it worse in the process of setting this up, because before there at least was a moderate exception to danger to the life of the mother. No, that's gone now. That's gone. Now, I on one hand, I'm furious. On the other hand, I'm kind of looking at them going, this isn't going to stand, because that's a violation of the 14th Amendment, bar none. And not even, and I say this, and then I might be proved wrong, but I'd like to believe not even this Supreme Court would look at a rule like that and say that was clear under the 14th Amendment and its equal protection clause. There's no way. Even if they want to do away with substantive due process, which you can't do, that's still a violation of the 14th Amendment. And I want to be clear, and this is the thing that pisses me off the most about this. If you have a religious objection to abortion, that's fine. That's 100% fine. Jehovah's Witnesses won't take blood transfusions. That's fine. Now, when it's a kid, I get a little bit tweaky about that, being like, no, the state has an interest in making sure that people, don't die in childhood.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, if you're an adult and you don't want to have a blood transfusion, I'm fine with that. That's your choice. If you're an adult and you don't want to take a vaccine, that's fine. There may be consequences. You may not be able to work certain jobs. You may not be able to go certain places, but that's your choice. That's fine.
It's their choice, but they're still going to throw a tantrum, piss and moan all the way off the airplane. By the way, Mark's here. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you. I didn't pull Mark's greeting in because his comment was immediately of substance. So
right, no. I'm furious in about this law. But again, back to the religious thing.
Like you do you until you doing you fucks me is essentially
right. I mean that's the main issue. The people who are doing this, the people who have made this a choice. If you are a pregnant, charismatic Christian, and you don't, and you're a woman, and you are accepting that you will die rather than have an abortion, and your child will likely die as well. That's your choice. That is your choice. I take extreme exception to them saying, well, it's God's will that the baby died in utero. Yes, no, now. I mean, it's medicine, it's biology. Babies don't make it all the time. This isn't
God's will about the rapist too, apparently.
Yeah, this isn't the 13th century. Women should not die from getting pregnant. This is the 21st goddamn century. And this is the thing that pisses me off the most. It's their choice that these women die. It's not God's, it's theirs.
Yep.
And man, it really makes me want to look at them and be like, you want to see what choices I can make?
Rob's here. Greetings from the left coast. Yes, sir. Always nice to have your well-traveled influence. And speaking of Rob's well-traveled influence, David, he relocated from South Carolina to California, and it was South Carolina representative that did his big oopsie that made the news this week, which we posted about. Like, really, you dumb fuck, you didn't think this through?
No, they don't. I mean, conservatives do not understand consequences at all. Period. End of sentence. It is constantly a reactionary moment to feel emotional validation. It doesn't matter that the data says trickle-down economics doesn't work. It doesn't matter that the data says people aren't using abortion like birth control. It doesn't matter that the data says fewer guns mean fewer gun deaths. It doesn't matter that parents picking and choosing curriculum in schools is bad for for the educational outcome of children. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they look at people like me and be like, well, you're all educated. I'm like, well, yeah, because I actually went and did the work and said, okay, let's test and see if this is the answer. And well, no, that's not the answer. Well, let's test and see if this is the answer. Well, that's the answer right there. That seems to do a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's better than what it was. They don't care about consequences. All they care about is emotional validation, and it pisses me off.
I kind of enjoyed watching him squirm with his comments, but at the same time, it's not enjoyable because it's such fucking garbage, and it's such, like he's sitting there talking about the chick that might might die. Like he's sitting there talking about the consequences. Like, well, so they told her she had to go home and have the miscarriage, and she either has to have it in the toilet or she can come back, and she could lose her uterus, and she could even die. And it's amazing how much these jack-offs show their cards. Like, oh, tell me that a woman to you is an empty husk designed to help you populate the earth with more people we can't support without telling me. You don't give a fuck if her uterus is ruined. You don't give a fuck if she dies.
No, because the thing, and here's what you have to understand: they haven't considered whether or not her uterus is ruined. They haven't considered any of it. I ended up getting into a conversation.
Aloha Ava, which we know is an alias, but we'll go with it.
Yep. Which, you know, it's really strange because every time I see Avalanche, I immediately think, "What's up, Colorado?"
Nope.
This is by virtue of being a Nashvilleian and therefore being a Preds fan. I'm like,
oh, traumatized hockey fan.
oh Jesus, it's so bad. Anyway, hey, at least we have the Titans and not the Lions.
We'll wrap up abortion, David, because it's about time for one of our favorite songs.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they don't think about it. They don't care about whether or not a woman loses her uterus. They don't care about whether or not she died. These are not thoughts that enter their heads. All they think is, save baby. Okay, well, you can't. The baby's going to die if the mother dies. And by the way, I'd like to point out for all of you watching at home and playing the home game, it's not a baby any more than a gear is a dishwasher or a seed is a tree. So no. So they're not even doing what they think they're doing. It's just
you did good there. You did good on the front and the end of that. The gear dishwasher thing. I thought you were going to say engine, but it works. Well, I mean, it's fun to watch it unfold.
It's like the joke. I don't know if any of y'all saw this. This one guy was going around Twitter posting pictures of zygotes and pointing out, well, you know, would you abort this? And all these people were like, yeah. He's like, that's a horse. Would you abort this? That's an iguana. Would you abort this? That's a seahorse.
Your dumbass can't even tell the difference. Oh, seahorse. No, I love it.
Because no one can tell the difference up until past like 17 weeks. There's no fundamental difference. It's like people talking about because this one last thing. It's like people talking about all these heartbeat pills.
Oh,
is there a heart in the developing zygote? No, there is no heart.
It's making sound.
It's making sounds in the same way. Like if I attach enough electrodes to Billy Graham, it doesn't matter that he's been dead for that many years. He'll still jump up and dance.
That makes me so happy. All right, it's time for one of our favorite songs. Some of you know what's about to happen. Some of you don't, and you may have your volume turned up too loud, and you're about to find out. But yes, that means we're about to talk about Ukraine because Putin Kuyo.
So there's been a lot of developments. I'm just going to give like a quick bullet point.
And that's dickhead, right? Putin is a dickhead.
Yeah, Putin is a dickhead.
The translation there. Yeah,
that's the translation.
Which is true.
Which is very true. I'm just going to give like a couple of quick bullet points. So the first major development that I would say really big development this week has been Turkey has signed on to Crimea is Ukrainian and the Russians have to leave. This is a big deal because Erdogan is he is a toady for whoever will pay him, right? At any given point. He's not pro democracy. He's not pro anything. He is a classic, Middle Eastern secular, semi-secular despot, which is odd when you consider that he's the leader of the Islamist party in Turkey. But again, it's still Turkey. It's just going to be weird in terms of its internal politics. But when he's not even when Putin doesn't even have the clout to carry Erdogan across the line on keeping Crimea in the hands of Russia, that's not a good sign. That's saying that the Turks, who are looking right at the situation, are saying, we think Zelensky's got it. We think he's got the forces and the ability to retake the Crimea, which the Ukrainians have definitely set themselves up to do so, because the Achilles heel of Crimea is that it has no fresh water. And that was one of the reasons why the Russians, in part launched this war, was because the Ukrainians were increasingly cutting off that access to fresh water from the Ukrainian mainland, and much of the population of Crimea is involved in agriculture, and without fresh water, you can't grow stuff. So that makes them angry. They start looking around, being like, "Well, maybe it's better for us to go rejoin Ukraine because they'll give us back our fresh water." And so, part of why they launched this war was to secure a supply of fresh water to Crimea. It also looks like their forces are gradually losing ground and falling back in southern Ukraine, bringing the Ukrainians closer and closer and closer to retaking Crimea.
I saw some of those essentially war maps this week when I was busy absorbing the beauty and glory of the parade for Ukrainian independence, which is just A-grade trolling. I mean, that fucking moron said, "Oh, we'll be parading through Kyiv within, what was it, 5 days or some bullshit." Now here we are 5 months, and he still isn't doing it. But they formed a parade out of all his broke down bitch ass equipment that they've destroyed, and I thought it was awesome. At first, the reporter that was there that I was seeing report live was saying, it's there've been a lot of threats, but it's a peaceful family day here, as you can see behind me. And at first I was like, all I see behind you are tanks, bro. And then he starts talking about what the tanks are. I was like, oh,
right.
So
that was bro. No, so it's, I mean, we're looking at good news. And a lot of Western commentators have pointed out that even though it looks like Ukraine is having trouble in the east, it's been very well contained compared to the amount, the number of forces and types of forces that have been arrayed against them. They keep on falling back in good order. There's no military rout. Every place where they have to fall back, they're falling back in good order. They're preserving their forces. They're doing a good job, and they've been concentrating in the south because unfortunately right now they've got to hurry up because winter's coming. And Ned Stark is right. It's not good, man. It's gonna be rough, and the ability for either side to conduct the war in that weather is going to be really rough. And as a consequence, it's going to, if the Ukrainians don't push a little bit right now, the Russians are going to be able to settle into good defensive positions come spring.
Right.
So they're doing the job right now. We've also begun transferring to them more and better drones. Ukrainian special forces apparently are doing a happy little waltz through the Russian hinterland, busily making their lives a living hell. The one bad part of, the or possibly the most concerning, but the downside news that's happened recently is Zaporizhzhia. The power lines are gone, so Ukraine's lost about a fifth of its electrical generating capacity. But even more dangerous, see, the thing is, we all remember Chernobyl. The Russians actually don't remember Chernobyl because the Soviet government did everything it could to cover up what happened. The Ukrainians definitely remember Chernobyl because, well, they were there. It's on their doorstep. It was bad. Zaporizhzhia is bigger than Chernobyl, and worse yet, Chernobyl relatively was a small break that was handled poorly.
Right.
A shell or a bomb hitting that nuclear plant would be absolutely catastrophic. And just to point out, not just for Ukraine, but for all of Europe, because the radioactive material would be spread, because of how the prevailing winds work in Europe, would be spread all over Germany, all over Italy, all the way as far north as Norway. There's still an issue in Germany with hunting boar in the Black Forest, in the German Black Forest. And you think like, oh, there's nothing more in German than that. They have to be tested for radiation because of Chernobyl. There are apparently boars don't mind levels of radiation that would normally be hazardous to humans. And the boars don't mind it. But eating them would be problematic. So it's still a thing in Germany about dealing with what happened. Let me do the math here. 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Been
a long damn propaganda lie minute.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of bad strategy, you were telling me earlier that the GOP is running out of cash.
It is.
Which seems weird when you think about all of the equation, but do tell.
So apparently, the GOP in February had $120 million saved up to support Senate races across the nation. That's down to 20 something, probably less. Oops. And a lot of people are looking at Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who is supposed to be in charge of this, and asking where the fuck did the money go?
I was going to ask you where the fuck the money went.
So they've got a very nice Amex expense account. Apparently, no one knows what was spent on it because apparently for 10 million of it, no one saved receipts. And in Trump's GOP, who's actually surprised?
Maybe they're in the toilet. I bet they spent them on I don't know what the right word for a gay male prostitute in an airport bathroom would be, but whatever honks their closet.
I think it's called the Minnesota Special. I
would say hookers and blow, but I don't know if pages qualify as hookers.
Tappity tap tap tap.
Maybe it was a really expensive gimp suit for Lindsey Graham.
I can't see why you'd spend that much money on a gimp suit for Lindsey Graham. It feels like a trash bag would be what he's used to. Anyway,
one of those little ones for your office. Well, it's either good news or bad news, because when the drum starts to get beaten about them being low on any cash, then that could drive donations. Pre-flight gigolo, I love it. Brian's here. Heidi ho, Brian. Good to see you, buddy.
But the thing is, they should never have gotten to this point. The donations should have been kept up consistently. And we're going to get into why they're not as consistent. But I mean, it is shocking how little money the GOP has on hand. It's absolutely shocking that they're this low on cash. There's no way they should have gotten that low on cash.
Interesting.
And it's being reflected. And, we're going to talk about the midterms here in a little bit, but I mean, Oz, Vance, even Rubio.
Yeah.
They're all looking like they're in trouble, and they need that money to push things along, to help them out, to subsidize their own fundraising. And now it's not there. And you can't just make up $100 million in that amount of time. And I think it really goes to how extractive the conservative political sphere has become, in that it's not really about winning or anything else. It's about, I want to get mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to go consult for the GQP and charge them, $400 an hour, and tell them the same thing that and some people speculated that might be part of where this went, is that especially is that they had to do 2 or 3 maybe big analyses. The first one was the one where they thought, oh, we're in good shape. The second one was right after Roe, and they said, oh, we still think we're in good shape. And I think a third one probably had to happen a little bit further on, and they're like, oh, we are not in good shape. And maybe even a fourth for them to confirm, oh, wait, we might not be in good shape. And again, all of it being spent on, hey, I'm friends with, Bob, conservative consultant Bob. And he needs a job. So, we'll kick him back. How much is he charging? $400 an hour, huh? He's a friend. He's a friend, right?
He's good people.
I mean, and having been there, I can definitely, in both in politics and around that class of investor, that class of asshole, rich asshole, I can definitely see that transaction occurring very easily because, me and Bob are friends, man. We're friends. He'll help me out when I need it. It's a spiritual connection.
Friends that you buy.
Right? It's a spiritual connection. Well, I mean, for Bob, it's a friend. It's a friend that he's bought. For the guy who's shelling out the money, it's the belief that he needs to believe that he's not that kind of an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go super granular, and I'll talk a little bit about Grand Rapids action here. Whoa, that's a big one. 2015, everyone was screaming about how the GOP was totally collapsing on their deathbed, and then Trump fucking won. And he was handed 3 fucking SCOTUS picks.
And I
only one thing that's going to kill the GOP, and that's an armed assault. Or the armed intervention of law enforcement whipping out the 50 cal and sweeping the crowd like they should have goddamn done on January 6th. I will beat that drum for the rest of my life.
I want to point out the difference between these two instances. 2015 happened before Trump. This being 2023, it's obviously after Trump.
Well,
Hillary Clinton's defeat.
23 doesn't mean a lot.
Right. 2022.
It was both sides of that, though. Like,
yeah, but I mean, heading into 2023, that Congress, the issue that occurred with that campaign was Democrats didn't believe they could lose.
Mm-hmm.
They now definitely believe they can lose. And I would also argue that the consequences of them losing have radically changed. Before, them losing was, it'll mean compromise and some shit, and we'll have to deal with some stuff. It didn't mean the end of the damned republic.
Right.
Okay? We're there now. Hi. Whoops.
Yeah.
We didn't imagine it could get this bad, and that somehow we got there. The van has gone all the way around the mountain, and now we are here at Leatherface's house. And the choice is we can either go in and meet Leatherface and watch the Republic disintegrate, or we can decide that we're going to find some way to get the van off the mountain. Right? We're at that point, right? And I think Democrats get it.
So here locally this week, the Grand Rapids Commission finally got out of the office and did the community version of a commission meeting Tuesday night, which was sort of presented as a new thing. It's not really a new thing. It's actually something they used to do before COVID. So for some of these people, it might be new based on how new they were at the time, but it's not a new idea. So I was keen to point that out, that like, I'm glad you're back to doing this, but it's not new. And the suggestions that I and others have given you are new ideas. But it was really interesting. It was a little bit chaotic, super loud. It was held in an elementary school down the road. I rode my bike because it was pretty close, and health, and obviously I need to. But it was good in some ways. It was stupid in some ways. I thought it was kind of interesting how the commander of our precinct on our end of town walked halfway across the room to greet me, and we were shaking hands and starting to be friendly. And then I realized that we were in the background of one of the news report shots, and I was like, "Ah, fuck! Here I am shaking hands with this cop and smiling. And
Right.
I'm gonna take such shit for this." And then had some good discussions with the chief as well. I mean, I think these guys basically have me figured out. I'm a lot of no bullshit, and I have a low tolerance for cop culture, but I don't automatically just treat them like shit human beings unless they do some shit. And these two guys have been people that I think might be doing some change, especially the new commander out here, because the original commander I interacted with was a total shitcock. Fuck him. VP of the fucking union and like just a complete ass.
Oh,
So this new dude is way
the
friendly.
the only union I'll ever talk shit about is
right. This new dude is
FOP.
way friendly. He seems to be a pretty level guy, and I'm still trying to give the chief a chance to make a difference. He had to do a press conference this morning because they shot a guy again, but it was in the wee hours last night. Apparently, they had a call for a dude rummaging in people's cars. There's been a lot of car theft lately, so when they showed up to check in on what the fuck he was doing, he ran off. While he was running, he decided to pull a gun out and point it at them, and I have to ride the fence on this one because, I mean, you know, like I would prefer that we force police to engage with the old Top Gun, don't fire until fired upon. In most cases, I would believe that should be the case. When you're out running in the open, I don't know where I land on that. Like, if you can be ducked behind your car, then fucking grow up and wait till you're shot at. But if you're just out running, I got to give room for the body cam footage to be released before I come to a conclusion, because that might have just been some straight thugging.
I want everyone to take note of this particular episode, because this is the only time Lucas has actually been even somewhat moderate on police. And in fact, if you look at the majority of our page, it is so
well, because it's a broken profession filled with broken people that are psychologically fucked up. And that does not get these guys off the hook for being psychologically fucked up. They've probably been waiting their whole life to be able to shoot a suspect. They just happen to get by in the right circumstance this time to be actually defending themselves. Maybe it's a high bar, because, somebody running away from you, pulling out a gun and pointing it at you, they still don't have body armor and they're still not running toward you. So, learn
again,
some shit from Europe and give ground.
Yeah,
Jesus.
we're not going to repeat my constant vetch about this of peacekeeping versus peace enforcement.
Yep.
We don't need more peacekeeping. We don't need more peace enforcement. We need more peacekeeping, which means you don't need to even have a gun. I mean, like, ideally, everyone makes fun of it, but for those of you who've watched the HBO series Watchmen, the first episode, actually, that's not far off from where I'd like us to be. When the cop is calling into headquarters saying, "I need you to unlock my gun."
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds about right of where it should be.
Yep. We just fired a captain or sergeant or whatever. He was kicking a handcuffed guy that was shackled to a bench at the station. Fuck that guy. Yep, Olivia, that's pretty much the kind of person that's in my head automatically as attracted to law enforcement. So let's move on to eating out. And no, it's not that kind of eating out. I thought of it as a generic item, and then I realized, it sounds
you didn't. You know what? For you, Lucas, there was a surprising level of oversight. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I realized it when I typed it. Like, I'm gonna stick with that. So the family and I took a little trip over the weekend, starting on Friday. We went to the Upper Peninsula, aka almost Canada for everybody else in the country. If you need to have a picture of where it is.
Almost Montana. I mean, it's pretty much the same vibe.
It's a little ways off, but yeah, you could say almost Wisconsin, because it technically might as well have been part of. Well, I think it was.
Well, I'm talking about culturally.
Oh well, yeah. So on the way, we went to a beautiful town called Petoskey. When we talk here in a minute about beers, I'll do old Uncle Lucas's slideshow. But I was cursed, David. Absolutely cursed. I could not get to anything on that trip while it was still open or available. The the first instance of this, and this is figuring into the beers because we decided to try out Beard's Brewery, and the reason I saved this topic for last because it's a great lead into the beer. We walk into Beards. Now, keep in mind, this small town, Petoskey, is a big tourist destination, and they're having the summer send-off. It's like a citywide movies and concerts and outdoor and event shit going on, and it's a Friday night. So we mosey into this brewery at 8:45 p.m. with absolutely no suspicion that there would be a problem, planning to eat and drink the hell out of some beer. And the only way in is through the gift shop. There isn't a regular brewery restaurant entrance. You have to come in off the street and you go down a long carpeted runner to the hostess that they don't currently have, then get admitted into the.
That's actually smart.
As a brand guy, most of the shit I'm offended by that I'm about to tell you about is because of brand experience goof ups. If you're going to create this kind of space, it would be ideal to not employ teenagers that don't give a fuck, especially the one that had the vacuum cleaner right in front of the inside of the door working on the carpet an hour and 15 fucking minutes before close and stayed in my way, making me feel like I had chosen the wrong door or perhaps was not welcome, or maybe they're already closed. This kid, no fucking life skills, no professional hosting skills whatsoever, and he's right up front. And let him cook pizza.
And I'll say from my perspective that's what we call in the industry a coachable moment. Is, you know, hey guys, and you know, I work with nothing but adult professionals in my job. Nashville, the money that you make in the industry is such that there's no 16, 17, 18-year-olds being hired for jobs in Nashville in the hospitality industry, simply because what's expected in terms of performance and what's expected in terms of pay do not match up with people who have not reached a certain level of maturity.
Well, after we get past Captain Oblivious, we go to the would-be hostess area where it says there is no hostess on duty, but please wait to be seated, which is fine. I get that, you know, I get that there's a trick to hiring anybody right now. I get that. I'm not going to knock anybody on their lack of numbers or even in some cases the need to learn. But when you've got that balance all jacked up, put somebody up there that gives a fuck. So when we kind of hover for a minute and the girl, equally young and clueless, asks if we want to be seated. Well, yeah. And I mentioned something about, you know, we came for dinner and beer. And well, the kitchen's closed. It's 8:46. Nobody closes on that cycle. Well, it closes at 9, and I think they're full. Now, here's my only problem with that, David. It's not the fact that they were full. It's not the fact that she thought they were full. It's the fact that she didn't do what every competent host would do and run off for a second and say, let me go find out the status just to be sure. I'll be right back. Yep. Then trot off, and you could go around the corner and masturbate and then come back and lie to me and say that you asked. It's just the fact that you didn't fucking give a fuck.
So here's what happens, and we, just to preface this for everyone, when Lucas and I were talking about this, and I said explain the whole full thing here in a little bit. Uber is a thing. Uber Eats is a thing. You know, Chow Now not as much. Postmates doesn't really exist anymore. Grubhub is still there, and they're fighting on. DoorDash
fucked themselves right out of that market.
Right. Well, Uber bought them, so.
Yeah, but they were for sale for a reason, homeboy.
This is true.
Their call center used to be down the hall from my office. I saw who was working there.
Yeah, probably not no. So here's what happens a lot when you're heading towards close of kitchen is, and anyone who's ever worked in the industry knows the sound of an Epson thermal printer. It's ingrained into your brain. It will literally, I mean, I'm not kidding. For those of you who've never experienced this,
the little ticket thing, right?
Yeah. The sound of it printing is ingrained in your brain. It will be in your dreams. It will be in your nightmares. It is there constantly. Because I mean, because your brain is trained to hear that all the time and then immediately acknowledge, okay, something's going on. So what has happened because of Uber, and I experience this on a regular basis. If especially if there's a big festival or event, that means a lot of to-go orders. And what'll happen is, and this is a fault that a lot of places have with Uber, and I wish more people would stand up to them. The place I worked previous at ML Rose, they kicked Uber to the curb. And they did so for a very explicit reason, which was Uber would destroy their ability to function for the last 30 minutes of kitchen open.
Yeah.
Because what'll happen is that printer will start going nonstop. And the other aspect of Uber that I have experienced personally that pisses me off is you can't tell them, hey guys, it's going to be 30 minutes, maybe even 40 minutes, depending on what my kitchen staffing is, for me to get all these orders out. So if you're at the end of a list of like it goes, you're going to shut down the kitchen early. And I've been there where, again, places I've worked previous, the place I work now isn't as sanguine about doing it, but places I've worked previous have been very clear about, if we start getting that, then you just turn it off. Yeah. We're not going to honor those orders.
Right. Well, you know, for me, it was mostly about presentation and handling of the service factor that put me in a weird place, because I came in feeling like, am I welcome in this room? I had to dodge Vacuum Boy, and then she doesn't give a shit. And then I'm in the rock and the hard place being in small town America, where everything else is going to close while we're having beers. So there is no just drink now, eat later. Now, our kid, bless his heart, hops on the internet and says, oh, I found a place. It's open till 11. And we called, and the kitchen was open till 11. We got that plan made. It happened to be a long apron wine cellar sort of place. So dinner cost money.
Right.
Well, but that was okay. We didn't mind. It was a good family experience. But, you know, even getting sat out on the patio where they didn't yet have their rope lights or their string lights turned on, but the sun was already well into setting, and they had lots of people standing around not really running, and seating was clearing out. It just seemed like they really had no idea what they were doing running the place in a major event weekend. Personally, I would extend hours on a major event weekend, but the next day was their 10th anniversary, which figures into the positive. That's great to see, because, you know, once a craft brewery makes it 10 years, that's a good mark. You're going to be around for a minute, and good for them. The whole thing was salvaged by our server, and I'll talk about him when I talk about the beer, but it was just the first of many fucking can't win scenarios. The next day, breakfast, I look up brunch, and on Yelp, under fucking brunch, which is a category controllable by the owner of a business if they give a fuck, was a restaurant that looked fucking perfect. We walk in, it's like 11:30, 11:45. Maybe it was a little afternoon. Oh, we stopped serving breakfast at 11. Okay, well, whoever owns the place leaves it listed as brunch. Great. And I managed to salvage that, kinda. Later that day, we went to get to pasties, which is spelled like pasty. Look it up, because I'm not going to waste time here.
Pasties.
Yeah.
I love pasties. I love them.
They were sold out of the ones that I would have wanted, which I didn't get torqued about that, because, you know, it was the very end of the day. I can't really complain about that. I'm a weirdo that wants chicken and not beef. Fuck it.
So, like I told you, it takes a minute to make a pasty.
Yes, and what was really wild, though, and here is in the inconsistent chaos hellscape that we live in for restaurants right now, right across, back on the Lower Peninsula, across the gigantic Mackinac Bridge, the same fucking store with a location on either side was still open, and we were able to stop and get what we needed frozen to take home. So, like, the two different stores on either side, one of them closed at like 6, the other one was open until like 8.
I'll tell you, so, labor costs are always a thing. I know where I'm working right now, there's this big push to keep it at for instance, like for most places, a labor cost of about 15 to 20% is considered normal.
And I can understand all the challenges there. The damage that it does for me from a brand perspective is that if you've learned on one side of the bridge that the building with that sign on it is closed, when you pass that building on the other side of the bridge, you might not realize it's open. I last minute swerved in there. The first one needs to have a sign that says "Visit our location on the other side of the bridge."
Well, I mean, it just depends on the labor costs, because here's the thing: like right now, labor costs for any industry except for hospitality, about 20% is considered okay. Labor cost in industry, because how a lot of people are looking at right now, like right where I'm looking at right now, where I'm working at right now, there's a big push to keep it as close to 8% as possible. Because again, remember, a lot of these businesses are not used to paying for servers. And on top of it, they're having to now turn around for the first time in their lives and pay more for kitchen staff and regular, and regular folks. I mean, before, the joke has always been that managers make less money. The place where I'm working at right now, granted, I work more hours, but at the end of the week, I'm making about the same as a server. Now, granted, I'm probably working about 15 to 20 more hours in that server. So, hour for hour, I'm making less. But on the other hand, I don't have to worry about a slow day, right? I don't have to worry about, oh, it was a bad week. I get the same amount every single week.
I get that we're in the middle of a renaissance. It's kind of like when we finally passed the meager excuse for a healthcare bill. I wasn't pissed about paying the fee when I skipped out on the group coverage.
Yeah.
I wasn't pissed about paying the fee on my taxes because I considered it part of the pain that we have to experience to make a major adjustment in a very stubborn field. And I think we're at the same place with eating out, with restaurants, and to some extent that's fine. And I try to be super understanding about most things, but when it comes down to leadership decisions that are fucked, that's when I get annoyed. And a leadership decision put dumb teenagers in front of a discerning beer aficionado crowd at a brewery on a Friday fucking night. And a dumbass owner didn't pay attention to their Yelp listing and left it.
I'm going to be honest, like that, the only way I can see that happened the way that it did, and this would be my likely scenario, is that in order to keep the good servers there, concessions had to be made. So either they all left, either all the good servers left because they didn't make concessions, or they did make concessions, and one of the concessions was, hey, we're going to be more generous on the schedule, and we're going to give you, in other words, keep you to only high volume times, right? So there are servers that I deal with that are kind of on that schedule of, okay, you're really good at your job, but you don't want to have to sit here and wait on bullshit. So what we'll do is we'll cut you very quickly, right? As soon as we're out of high tip territory, I'll go ahead and let you go. And the I don't have any workers who don't do their side work. Every server that I manage definitely is great about doing their side work, but for some place like that's maybe operating on a more traditional model, the advantage is that server that gets to get out of there quicker, less side work, less effort, less work, and that can be a big concession for a lot of managers to make to keep better staff. And so when you get towards the end of the night, and I think this is going to continue to be a thing in the hospitality industry for a while going forward, is as you get towards the end of the night, I think what you experienced, I imagine a lot more people will be experiencing, because again, the quality servers who I need to keep, I have to make concessions for, because my labor, and again, this ties back to the labor model thing of, I can't pay them more per hour, but what I can do is make it so that they aren't working as hard.
For me, it was the presence of perfectly reasonable professional people on the other side of the wall that didn't appear to have a lot going on, and the leaving the store to the random teen. I got the drift that teenagers have been there like the whole afternoon shift.
Well, I mean, but I'm saying like the professional people have likely been cut.
No, right? The professional people were still standing around in circles, kind of just talking, in the server station out on the deck. The only one working was our guy, and he was amazing. And I'm really upset that I didn't get his name because I wanted to be able to recognize him when I talk about the beer experience. But unfortunately, I can't. So I'm just going to describe him and hope that if he ever gets wind of it, he knows that I think he saved the whole fucking night. And with that, we have to get to the drinking. That means we have to ask, what you drinking? David,
you go first because yours ties in.
I will. So apparently at Beards, there are nerds. Because I have...
Well, the brewmaster may be a nerd.
Somebody's a nerd. And
it's the brewmaster.
They named this Copper Star Galactica. Yep. And I'm going to zoom that in a little bit so I can show it's got the most like retro pastel gaudy combos of glorious colors in the designs, and it's even got a little Cylon action there. It's pretty rad. I don't like this beer as much as their others, but I do like this name and this label, so I thought I would pick up. I picked up a mixed 6-pack. So again, this is Beard's Brewery in Petoskey, Michigan, where the Petoskey Stone is from. They describe it as an astronomical ale fit for a Space Force admiral. It's an IPA, fruity, but also there's a metallicness to it, which I think contributes to the Copper Star. And I got to be honest, the draft version that I had in my flight, I didn't pick up the fruit. I only picked up the metallic and the IPA pieces of the experience. But in the can, I get a little of the fruit, and it actually is more smooth, laid back, and drinkable because of that.
It's the yeast. It's the yeast. Sometimes you deal with problematic strains. That the most common flavor note when you're before what happened is more than likely they had an IPA that came out as what we call diesel, which is we call it diesel because it tastes like diesel fuel. And it came out diesel, and the response when you have something that comes out diesel is fruit the holy hell out of it. Right? Save the vat, fruit the holy hell out of it, and we can make this work. And so more than likely what happened was that metallic taste is it went diesel and they fruited the hell out of it to get it to, and I'll be honest, one of the things that's often true when something goes diesel is it's gonna taste better in the can.
Yeah, because well, it definitely does, and I don't dislike it. It is a 6.6 and local hops, of course. That's kind of the vibe. Apparently it's a retooling of their Palm Galactic from before, apparently that they had in the past and I never got, but it's good. I didn't think it would be this good when I started drinking it. I just bought it to be able to talk about it. This gives me lots of hope for my next one. Let me do the quick slideshow tour. First of all, this was the scenery that made us not get dinner.
Sorry to all our viewers
until 8.
I apologize sincerely.
Yeah, fuck off. That's beautiful. So this was the bay there by Petoskey. So here's Beards. I love the giant metal beard hanging on the wall. Yeah, for real. I do think Beards is a great name, especially because I have to assume that all the guys have beards. And it's a little sparse on the inside because it is basically closing time by this point. But I thought their decor was pretty sweet. There's this handmade surfboard with LED insets they have hanging over the bar. I thought that was really, really nice. And then, like any good beer nerds, the owners had a big collection of vessels, various sizes of growlers, and turned that into the decor, which I really appreciated. This was my flight. We did a couple of flights, but I only got a good photo.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, at least we're keeping with a theme.
It's on a beard. It is an extremely unwieldy carrier because there's nothing else to it. So you pick it up like 3 inches, it finally grabs the glasses. Setting it down is a little dicey.
I hate that design. I understand some servers like it better because it feels more secure. I personally dislike it because of what happens when you have to set it down.
Yeah, I don't think it feels secure when
personally
you set it down. It feels wild and
right.
unmanaged.
It does when you set it down, it feels uncontrolled and it
But
creates
it
a whole
looks
fucking
cool.
problem.
It's on brand and it looks cool. I can get why they did it. From the moment that we were greeted all the way through the end, our guy who was in like a branded shirt that was very obnoxiously pink and wonderful, very he was knowledgeable but kind of new, so he still had the curiosity and the interest in what he was talking about. He was a really cool dude. I wish I'd gotten his name. He totally salvaged the experience. We had a really good time with the beer portion of things. And then I went and grabbed myself a mixed 6-pack to share on the show.
There
So
you go.
that was my experience with beards, and I would try again. I would just be there at fucking 6 o'clock to make sure I goddamn get to eat because it smelled great there. I will not know for some time how good those pizzas are, but they smelled good. So what do you got? What are you drinking?
So I have a true Nashville oddity this evening. I have Bearded Iris Moon Dust. Now, there's a reason why this is an oddity. Bearded Iris is like Nashville water, right? And it's except we call it something different. We call it home style. It's Bearded Iris home style IPA. You go to any bar that is not a brewery in this city, and they have Bearded Iris home style IPA. We all drink it. It's basically hipster bait. It's I mean it's we all drink home style IPA. You go to
Dip your
any
fly
bar,
paper in it and catch hipsters.
right? I mean, like we all drink it. Hipster, non-hipster, everyone drinks home style IPA. This is like if there had to be like a banner beer of like someone who actually cared about beer
Right?
in Nashville. And yes, Olivia, Grandpa Lucas and his projector slides. It's horrible. It's like the 1970s never left us.
It's okay, David. You'll get to travel more one day.
Oh, fuck off. I work for a living. But no, I mean it's Bearded Iris always makes IPA, and everything they make is IPA as far as everyone is concerned. So when I saw this and I said Bearded Iris
Along comes an anomaly.
Imperial Stout, I'm like, hold up.
Excuse me.
What is going on here? This is not IPA. Because here's the thing: even when Bearded Iris doesn't make more home style, which they just make more home style, they always just make more home style. It's always another IPA or a pale ale or something else. I mean, nothing that they make has any hint of color. Nothing like this. So, and I gotta say, this is an interesting. Yeah, it's so the main notes are going to be on this are going to be a little bit of maybe. There may be a very small like raspberry or cherry note mixed in there.
Cherry note checks out.
A lot of dark chocolate. A lot of dark chocolate in
That
there.
also checks out. I'm checking you against the description.
Maybe a little bit of coffee.
That works. This is an homage to Moon Pie, apparently.
Okay. So
we need a little graphic of a light bulb.
Fair enough. I mean, but I mean, like so I've been noticing this with some high grav beers, and especially on the stout side, and it's annoyed me a little bit, which is I enjoy a small alcohol bite in my high alcohol beers. And here's the reason why. Because we have there are two different things in brewing. They're called esters and phenols, right? Phenols are bad, esters are good. Alcohol note is typically considered a phenol that you want to brew out. I don't subscribe to that as much. And here's why. If you have, I enjoy an evolution in my beer when I'm drinking it. I enjoy being able to say, okay, there's a front end, there's a middle, there's a back, and these are the flavor notes that I'm detecting in the beer. I'm not a proper Cicerone, which is the beer version of sommelier, but I enjoy an evolution to the flavor of the beer. It's one of the reasons why I prefer beer over liquor or other things, because there's normally not a whole bunch of evolution in those things. Beer, there's like, if you have a good beer, it has an evolution in the flavor as you taste it. And this has a very good evolution, and I appreciate that alcohol bite, because that phenol adds character to the experience. Even though it's, most brewers would say like, I want to get the alcohol note out. I don't want the alcohol note out on a thick, heavy beer. I want to have that alcohol bite as part of a larger conversation with the beer and its flavors.
So does it pull off moon pie? Because now I'm excited now that I know that it's a moon pie homage.
Not in the slightest.
Really?
Sounds
like you were describing some moon pie.
No, I mean, the dark chocolate is way too strong in this for it to be moon pie. The dark chocolate definitely dominates. It's the fruit at the front, very strong chocolate in the middle, and a coffee and alcohol finish is where it ends. It does not have any of the sweetness. That it does have some sweetness. It just doesn't have enough. I mean, if I were going to make a moon pie beer, I would actually maybe add to sweeten this up. I might have added. I would have added a sweeter chocolate note. It needs to have a sweeter chocolate note, because this is like baker's chocolate. Like,
oh, okay, so it's more of a semi-sweet situation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and also moon pie doesn't have the coffee in it, and this definitely finishes on coffee, very solidly on coffee.
Well, and I don't know that it's supposed to be a total send up, but I was excited by that description, but it sounds like I would also like it as it is.
Yeah, I mean, as it is, it's actually a really solid stout. I mean, and again, I would expect nothing less from Bearded Iris, given that, again, it's such a ubiquitous Nashville beer. When Yazoo, which is the largest brewery here in town, makes something, you know where it's going to go. Like, it's not, they're going to make something that they know is mass marketable to a much wider audience.
Now
they're going for Budweiser, Coors territory, and aren't we better than them? And that's why you should pay us $2 more, and they are better than them. But that's why you should pay us $2 more per 6-pack, $3 more per 6-pack than the Budweiser.
I realize
Bearded Iris normally charges about $7 more than Budweiser.
There might be a whole bunch of people that have no idea what in the fuck I keep talking about. So if you have not been on a thorough tour of the South, or you're not one of the Tennessee natives, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that is a moon pie.
Yep.
From the Chattanooga Bakery, and it is, in case you couldn't tell, 2 round graham cookies with marshmallow filling in the middle, dipped in a flavored coating.
I want to say cookie is used very generously in this case.
I would think
more like cake.
Thin cake is more.
It's more like
and honestly, I have no use for the traditional design of the moon pie. It's double decker or nothing.
And also, I want to say with the moon pie, like the thing is, like the defining characteristic of a moon pie for me is chocolate and marshmallow, and then the graham stuff ends up being sort of like the midpoint or the finisher. This has no marshmallow. This has nothing in it,
really,
which suggests of marshmallow. Which is why I'm like, I would not
call that out in the profile. That's weird.
There is nothing. I've had beers that are very suggestive of marshmallow. I'm not gonna lie, they're not my favorite.
They don't really call it out as a flavor. They call it out in the smoothness, pillowiness, or something.
There's no marshmallow flavor. The defining characteristic of a moon pie is being slapped in the face by that like gooey, like sugar. I don't typically like moon pies, simply because it's so gooey, ridiculously sweet at the center.
Right.
It destroys any love I would have had of the chocolate and any of the graham cracker stuff.
Olivia's description is perfect. Moon pies are basically cold s'mores.
Yep, that's exactly what they are.
I overcomplicated it by reading the description. It really could be described much
You know what?
quicker.
I never would have thought of that, and she's exactly right. She's 100% right. It is a cold s'more.
Oh boy. Well, before we conclude this segment, of course, there is a little something that we try to do. We include we include the regulars around this bar. So tonight we will switch over to our brief recognition of Brian's contribution to the flavors of the evening. And here is what our good buddy is enjoying in the vapor form. Tonight's frontal lobe frolics are fueled with Triangle Kush by Sunshine Cannabis. Straight up indica, 27%. Strong aroma, very sticky.
Oh, Lucas.
Comes in dusty little nuggets. Yeehaw, Space Cowboys.
Whenever you come back to town, you need to go to Buds and Brews.
Yes, I do. Apparently, that's
I will tell you, like,
quite
so
a thing.
For my usual like Sunday afternoon debauch, I'm now trying to go there on a regular basis because I'll be honest,
Sunday afternoon debauch. I love it.
The THC shots are absolutely fantastic, and they mellow me out for the entire evening. Right?
But they're not THC shots, are they?
Yeah, they no. It is 10 milligrams of THC.
Some kind that's not they've gotten it in somehow.
No, it's so apparently the state legislature, everything the way it's worked out is apparently they can't stop THC in some instances. No one knows what the hell is going on, but as far as anyone can tell is that there's someone has found a vagary in the law and how they tried to word their situation in medical marijuana, right? Which is basically the marijuana is illegal, but not the THC.
Huh. So like there's somebody in the back with a little syringe going drip.
Yep, pretty much. No, well, and here's the thing. They also make sure none of it is manufactured in state. It's all imported.
Interesting.
They're making money hand over fist.
Well, yeah.
Oh no, Lucas, your camera went out. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh, we've lost Lucas again. But yeah, so I
didn't touch anything this time.
Lies and falsehood.
No, I didn't touch anything this time. It's so weird. I blame Chrome.
It is. So Lucas is going to have to restart Chrome. I will regale you with the stories of Tennessee THC here for a moment.
Yes, you do that. I'll be
right. So apparently the state legislature has set it up so that THC may or may not be legal. No one knows. Derivatives of THC are not legal. Maybe. And the general consensus seems to be this. The places that are selling actual THC all happen to have skin that looks like mine. And the places that are trying to sell THC derivatives and other things like that all happen to have a much greater degree of melanin in their skin, right?
I left and you were talking about THC. I come back and you're talking about melanin.
Well, no. So what I was telling them
and
is
like
this.
clockwork, restarting fucking Chrome. I don't know why Chrome can't get along with my camera, but now the running joke every night every week is gonna have to be: will we make it through the show without Lucas's camera taking a shit in Chrome?
What I was telling them is this: is that it seems the places that are selling the straight THC are all very much melanin deficient, and the places that sell THC derivatives.
So what you're saying, David, is the age-old things are all staying true in law enforcement. Well,
it's not even a law enforcement thing. It's just a legal thing. It looks like these white-owned businesses that attract more bougie whites. And because it goes all the way up to vape. Like they have these big vape systems. that they'll rent you. They're
Fascinating
ridiculously
shit.
expensive.
We may have to have a show guest tell us all about this if you get where I'm going with that.
Oh yeah, no,
Let's get into this midterm shit, man. You've got some midterm excitement that's been brewing, and when you described it as the wind at our backs, I had no choice but to go the pirate route. Midterms ahoy! So I mean, obviously, this is the gift that keeps on giving. My favorite part of it being Dr. Oz's fucking. I mean,
oh god,
what a fucking
crudité.
First of all,
what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? And Fetterman's response of pointing at the veggie tray was just.
But did you see the low blow? Did you see the trashy shit they resorted to though? The Oz crowd basically said, "Well, he's never had a veggie in his life. What would he know? He had a stroke," which it doesn't really even add up.
No, it doesn't at all.
It doesn't add up any more than buying that bullshit plastic tub of fucking salsa. Who does that?
There's that.
Oh, I know who does that. A rich guy that doesn't ever do his own grocery shopping.
So many people have pointed out who uses salsa for crudité. So you even lost that crowd.
Yeah.
So Pennsylvania, we're done. Fetterman's got that locked up.
I'm so excited.
I think where
Fetterman's
Republicans
the closest thing to me in mainstream Democratic politics.
You're going to be shocked at this. Who's ahead in the polls in my district? Who's ahead in the polls in my district?
Who's ahead? What?
Heidi Campbell is up.
Huh.
Heidi Campbell, the Democrat, in their redrawn hyper-Republican district.
Didn't calculate those districts very well, did they?
Is up. And well, I mean, because it looks like Republicans are about to lose 2 districts from their redistricting. They're about to lose. They thought, oh, well, we'll drive the Democrats, out of Middle Tennessee. No, it looks like they're about to already the one that they knew they were going to lose, and then 2 more.
Good.
It's incredible. The amount of bullshit. I mean,
maybe if we can't federally ban gerrymandering like we should have done 20 years ago or more, we could just see it fall out of style.
Well, at any rate, things are looking up, way up. And for everyone who's constantly like, oh, the Democrats are set for a loss because of inflation and all this other. But here's the problem. What have Republicans proposed to anyone as a cure for inflation? Nothing. And here comes Biden with the well-named Inflation Reduction Act. And here comes Biden.
I heard fucking farmer fucking dildo from fucking West Virginia. God, why I despise him so much I can't even think of his fucking name right now. Manchin. I saw Manchin trying to talk about how he came up with that name. I don't know if that's true or not, but
you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it was, and I don't. But honestly, I don't care.
I mean, I'll give credit where credit is due. It's not exactly the most creative. It's like it's definitely form over function. I mean,
right.
But which in all ways except yachts describes Manchin.
Pennsylvania is an easy pickup, but here's where it gets worse.
Or function over form.
Ryan in Ohio is up over Vance. Demings in latest polling is up over Rubio. Whatever the name of the lady is from Nevada. Lucas, go look it up. I'm busy talking and drinking and smoking.
Which race?
Nevada Senate. She is holding on. Kelly is still holding on in Arizona. It's not looking good. The pickup they thought they might get in New Hampshire is gone. That's off the board. And Herschel Walker, the more they let him talk, the better it gets for Democrats.
That he.
It's what's the name of the lady, Lucas?
Dude, I'm still.
Your Google food is weak. Anyway,
we have too much information now.
Everyone was walking into this situation saying that Democrats were about to get crushed. There we go. That sounds right.
Catherine Cortez Masto.
Cortez Masto. It's hyphenated. There we go. I remember it now.
Oh, it's not hyphenated in Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is wrong. I don't care. I decided it was hyphenated just now. So it's, everyone was walking into this thinking that we were going to be in trouble. Everyone still needs to show the fuck up. But this is looking a hell of a lot better than I think any of us thought it would. And I attribute that to two major reasons. Number one, like I already mentioned, inflation. Inflation is still bad. I definitely intend to go approach my employer and be like, so what you promised me at the beginning to now, even though I've only been working for you for about 3.5 months, is we're going to have a talk about how that paycheck works out these days. But above and beyond that, like for instance, it is coming down. Like for instance, I bought new pants.
What does that have to do with inflation coming down?
Well, because when inflation was high, these pants were about 20% more expensive than when I bought them the other day.
But if I remember correctly about previous conversations you and I may or may not have had about your pants, which sounds completely wrong, you spend a lot more money on pants than I typically have allowed myself to spend on pants. So for you, I think that price
because my pants get covered in shit all the time.
That's true. You might need beefier pants, so to speak, than me.
The same way, like I have to buy new shoes every year.
Yeah.
Simply because I'm on my feet, for 50 hours a week. So in the same way that working in the hospitality industry, my pants get covered in schmutz all the time. And eventually you can't watch out all the schmutz.
Right.
So therefore what pants I buy, like me buying pants is an expense that I have to think about. Me buying shirts. I don't wear this shirt to work. I wear this shirt for the show. I wear this shirt to go out. But my work shirts, again, covered in schmutz. Eventually, they have to be tossed.
Absolutely.
No,
and there's all sorts of weird shit going on, like Florida with Christ running as a Democrat.
Oh, Jesus, that makes me feel fucking dirty. I feel good about him, but I want to come back to the other reason, and it ties into what I was talking about earlier about abortion, which is Republicans have finally run into. And I've been saying this ever since the Dobbs decision. I'm like, they finally caught the car.
Yeah.
They're the dog that finally caught the car. And Kansas proved it. And if you go and do the polls and look at the polls and look at where women are voting, white women have traditionally been a Republican gain of at least anywhere between 4 to 10 points on white women. Now they're looking at maybe 1, possibly negative points on white women voting for them. And again, as I've always said, it's because that suburban housefrau has suddenly discovered that Susie Rottencrotch, her beloved daughter, who she didn't want to teach any sex ed to, has let Billy
play doctor.
Gonorrhea dick. That's rotten crotch and gonorrhea dick. That's where we'll go with that. As let Billy gonorrhea dick.
Little Harry HPV.
Play hide the sausage, and now we got to go do something about that, don't we? Or otherwise, Susie is gonna need a new wardrobe for sophomore year.
And the best part, leaving themselves with no choice but to go to one of those damn blue states.
Yeah, and so now, no, I mean it's their relationship, I think, with suburban America has hit a lot of rocky patches, and the relationship, ever since Reagan tied the Republican to the moral majority, to the quote moral majority.
Right.
This has been part of the deal, is we will be as pro-life as possible. And every year, every election, they got more pro-life. Let me phrase that. I don't like using the term pro-life. That's the traditional term. Anti-choice. They got more anti-choice and more anti-choice and more anti-choice. And they've reached a point of absurdity, especially here in Tennessee. They've reached a point of absurdity where in a district, that no Democrat, literally, you could have a Democrat, as we say in the South, with enough money to burn a wet mule running in this district, and they still wouldn't have a chance of winning.
Yeah.
And now Heidi Campbell, with no money, nothing, is up in the polls. That should tell you something. And why?
Yeah.
Because what is the predominant aspect of my district now that the Republicans have redistricted it so that it only contains like a little fourth or a third of the metropolitan area? Suburbs.
What is your district again?
It's the House, the 5th. It's
Oh,
Cooper's.
you're still in TN.
I'm still in.
You're still in TN or Congress 5th, but it just changed drastically around you.
And instead of being at the edge of the Tennessee 5th, I'm now. Well, actually, I'm still at the edge of the Tennessee 5th, but I was at the southern edge. Now I'm at the northern edge. I mean, if you look at a map of my district, it should literally spit red in your eye from the computer screen.
And Cooper retired as of like he's out at the end of this year, basically.
Yeah, he's done. He's not running again.
U.S. Congressional District 5. That's not right. These are old maps. Why doesn't the internet have new shit, David?
I don't know. But I mean, it's the midterms are shaping up a hell of a lot better for Democrats. And again, I would argue it's because Biden actually showed up with something for inflation. I would also argue, as a lead in to our next segment, that it's only going to get worse for Republicans as Biden actually shows up with some level of debt forgiveness for, again, college educated people. And again, who are in those suburbs that the Republicans need to win back in order to put votes up on the board? College educated people. He just said, here's $10,000 back.
Oh, so basically they pushed the district, instead of having Nashville and half of the rednecks to the right and half of the to the east and half the rednecks to the west, they just went full redneck double down and extended past Dixon.
Yeah.
With a special little pointy part toward Fairview. I wonder whose uncle lives there. So yeah, I see what you mean. Like, you are outnumbered like 2-1 on turf, but they might have forgotten that Nashville has more people than the entire state of Vermont, literally, and that could be a problem. They probably have also underestimated exactly how many people have been forced out of Nashville to settle for Kingston Springs, Dixon, and Ashland City.
Yep.
I say that I was born at Vanderbilt Hospital, but I was born to a family living in a trailer in Kingston Springs. So, I'm not knocking the Springs, but it looks like they really did make some assumptions that might not be working out on that whole suburban female demographic, because I know a lot of people that pulled the Ashland City card because that's where they could fucking afford to be. So, yeah, that's a nice miscalculation to see. I think with the midterms, we also see maybe a little pickup of the latent younger group, also leading into our next topic. It seems to me that it was incredibly shrewd, smart politics to go there with this to be discussed shortly relief of student debt. But I think they definitely caught the car, overplayed the hand, and boy, oh boy, every single human being that can claim a female concern at any stage of life, like, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. They really just dove face first into an empty pool. I mean, 8-year-olds that know what's up and like, what the fuck,
No,
man?
I mean and I think that the total
90-year-olds that were around, for suffrage or something.
the
Did
total
not
abortion
let them
ban, I think, was like in Tennessee, is just going to work rabidly against them,
Yeah.
because the thing is, the people, and it works two ways. And this is the thing I think the GOP didn't think about, which is GOP voters are very often single issue voters,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you either have the gun voters who only vote on one thing: who will give me more guns, who will let me kill more people. That's all I care about. And the abortion voters who only care about one thing: who will ban abortion and make it so that Susie Rottencrotch dies with a headless baby in her uterus, because that's what she deserved, and because God said so. Not anywhere in the Bible that I can find, but I decided that it was there. Right? I mean,
And then I told everybody at my tent revival.
right. That's what goes on. And I think that the problem is that they got the abortion ban and they pissed a bunch of people off, right? And then that also now means that the pro-abortion folks, or the anti-choice folks rather, are not going to show up anymore. They got what they wanted. This relationship in conservative politics, this
Very
relationship
transactional.
is yeah, exactly, extremely transactional. They got what they wanted. You gave them what they wanted. They have no more reason to vote for you.
Well, we won, Bubba. We can stay home now.
Yep.
Only problem is when you get your cousin and your sister pregnant, they got to have the baby. Well, here's hoping that works out like we hope it does.
Yeah.
I like your car analogy. I think it really is the dog that caught the car in this case. Let's keep drinking, man.
Yep.
You ready for another round? I'm ready for another round. If you're out there and you're ready for another round, pop it open. You go first this time. I went first last time.
Hold on, I got to kill.
Well, that didn't take long.
That. Now I got to crack open whole hog pumpkin ale.
Ta-da! It's David's favorite time of the beer year.
It is really good. I am
when he manages to force me to drink some pumpkin ale because I want to fit in and have something to talk about. But luckily, we're not there yet. I refuse.
No,
I refuse to drink pumpkin ale until after Labor Day. Damn it!
We will get to the pumpkin special where it's nothing but pumpkin beer. I gotta say, this is pouring pretty dark.
Maybe I could like that one. I don't know. You know that it's fucked up when I can't even fully get behind the pumpkin ale from New Holland. When I can't, like, when even Ichabod can't romance me into liking pumpkin ale enough.
I don't think Ichabod is the best example of the species.
I'm talking about brand loyalty here, homie. But we will look for the best examples of the species. I'll just have to be prepared to not drink half of the can when it gets a little warmer. So what do you think, Mr. Pumpkin Ale aficionado?
That's solid. And I'll tell you why it's solid.
Well, it's the whole hog. I mean,
it's not overly sweet. And this is where most pumpkin beers get into trouble, is they add too much and they end up making it overly sweet. And they add too much because they're looking to cover up. And again, I would argue that a lot of instances it's because they've possibly dieseled the vat. Because it's not an easy thing for the yeast to chow down on all that cinnamon and nutmeg. But yeah, that's really nice. It's not overly sweet. It definitely has an ale flavor mixed into it, as I knock my camera slightly.
I do love that they just said fuck it and the name is pumpkin ale.
Yeah, they definitely did.
What is that? Car. What do you call it? Car.
But I mean, it's you know, it's very much like you know, it comes and then it goes. I was gonna make a sex joke, but then I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
It's
But I mean,
interesting to me that you
it shows
consider
up.
it so good, and the description and the name are so generic. Like it's funny that this sleeper that's otherwise unexciting to consider is scoring with you, and I know that you really know what the fuck you think about pumpkin ale. It's one of your favorite things, and that's fascinating to me. That they just kept it so simple.
I mean, and I think that's where, because I think that's where most people screw up pumpkin ale, is they think they've got to uh over elaborate something, like we've got to like boost the cinnamon, and we've got to boost the nutmeg, we've got to boost the coriander.
Brian bragging about the win for Team Weed on having no pumpkin spice THC products. Now I have a mission this fall at all of the dispensaries here in the very recreational state of Michigan. I'm going to be going to all the stores asking.
You've seen the joke about what'll happen when the feds finally legalize marijuana across the country. 5 minutes later, and then there's the picture of the fried cannabis leaves. No, I mean, this is, what I like about this is
I'm kind of surprised that hasn't happened somewhere already.
No, it definitely has. It's not pretentious, and this is why I think so many people locally have been raving about this. Is that there's zero pretension. It's pumpkin spice in ale, and then we're done.
Yeah, okay.
And I feel like they didn't try to overthink the process.
It's 7%. Is that in the normal range? I don't remember what the normal vibe of.
No, that's very high, and that might have been intentional, because by upping the alcohol content, I feel like
their love.
Well, no, I feel like what they might have done is, by upping the alcohol content and giving the yeast more time to work, because what do yeast eat? Sugar. They eat sugar. And what doesn't this have? This does not have a ton of sugar. This is not overly sweet. This tastes like an ale.
I can get behind that theory.
So what I would imagine is that they let the yeast do what yeast do and eat the sugar. And again, yeast eat sugar and shit alcohol. And I feel like that's what they've done here, is they've said, okay, we'll use an ale yeast that will eat more of the sugar, take away some of the sweetness, and shit out more alcohol. So it is a higher, ABV beer. It was much higher than what you normally see for a pumpkin ale. If you're trying to get in good with your date and she's a basic bitch, I would definitely drop this down in front of her. But
good for pumpkin brew. Spices are well balanced, not overly done. There may actually be real pumpkin in there. Some of the reviews are pretty good.
I mean, the reviews on this, and especially in my market, with talking with all the beer folks, this is they've all been raving about this, which is why I went ahead.
Does it taste like pumpkin pie? There are a lot of people saying that.
Here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie. I have a love-hate relationship with pumpkin pie, and it's very complex and long. Leave it to this. My birthday is on November 25th, and traditional dessert for Thanksgiving is pumpkin pie. Do you know how many times my birthday cake has been fucking pumpkin pie? Do you know how many times my birthday cake has been fucking pumpkin pie? Do you know how many times my birthday cake has been fucking pumpkin pie?
That's it. I think I know when I'm going to come to Nashville next. It's around your birthday, so I can bring you a pumpkin pie and then duck.
Me and pumpkin pie have a very strained relationship.
Oh boy. Well, it's my turn, David. I love the name of my beer. Unlike your pumpkin ale that doesn't really have a name, I have These Nuts, which I did buy mostly because of the name, but it's a good ale. So, all right, this is the brown ale from Beards, as covered earlier. Here's the I think when I was sober, this label did not make me laugh as much. But now that I'm edging up on a little bit of a buzz, this crazed squirrel situation makes me very happy. I love the little scratchy "These Nuts" logo. Beards also does this really tasteful little banding where the beard is worked in on all of their cans, regardless of the color scheme. So I think that's pretty cool.
I gotta say, I kind of want to like ask, corporate if we can steal their branding guy, because I love our artist. He's very creative. He has a very distinct style, and it works most of the time. But branding wise, that looks better.
So this is only 4.8%. Smooth, nutty caramel flavors. I don't know if I would say there's a hint of caramel there. It's the hearty addition of oats definitely comes through. English varietal hops.
That's always good in a brown ale.
Pairs perfectly with pumpkin pie. Speaking of pumpkin pie,
fucking hell.
Changing leaves and sweater weather. That's true. This for me will be a phenomenal fire pit sipper, I think.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, one of the things I like about this pumpkin ale is that if they brewed this year round, I would still drink this in summer. Like this is like it's that good.
Okay.
It's literally that good. I mean, it delivers the pumpkin spice and then it checks the fuck out.
I've had a lot of brown ales. I've had some brown ales that I would consider kind of funk nasty and just not interesting. And this is definitely not bad.
I feel like the brown ale, like
Thunder Ann, is a good one. Like I would put this in there.
I feel like the brown ale genre is experiencing a little bit of a renaissance. I'm a little disappointed at the American Berliner Weiss situation that's going on. I wish we could have a true Berliner Weiss in America without American brewers hosing that up and turning it into a fruit ale. But I feel like there's a couple of styles that are starting to circulate amongst American brewers that I think are better. And brown ale, I feel like is the vanguard, or is becoming the vanguard of, hey, we can make other stuff, not just your Coors IPA replacement. And I think brown ales are definitely starting to come in vogue. In fact, my pass through that I have sitting here is this Pontoon Brewing Average Joe's oatmeal cookie brown ale that I'm going to be drinking for the last part of our show.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that people don't see is at the end, I get to find out whatever the fuck it was that you really drank last, because we don't actually cover that.
Right.
I keep myself at 2 for reasons, but David does not have to keep himself at 2.
No, I do not. And I do not.
Like under the
I always come equipped with a whole bag. Like I have another, and I may buy this again just to share it with everyone. This Pontoon, because it's just so greatly named Sangri Briated.
It's a mouthful, but that's pretty funny.
Sangri Briated.
Well, let's take out the final stretch of this course that we run every week with the big discussion of the evening, bailout. Which is not really a bailout.
What the fuck? Why I didn't actually see this name before you put this in here. Bailout, ballyhoo. Fuck you, Lucas. Fuck you sideways.
So let's talk about what we're dealing with here. This is what the right-wing shitheads think that we're talking about. They think this is a bailout for people that tried to play by the rules. What's so interesting about this bailout ballyhoo?
I don't care. Why'd you call it? All right, fine. Just continue on.
Because the other side has decided to call this a bailout, and they're wrong.
The other side likes to call school shootings an unfortunate incident involving our toys. I don't understand. we don't use the other side's terminology for a reason.
Unless you're about to talk about it. So
I mean, like
these fucking assholes.
I don't need to hear what they stroke off to, man. It's not my bag.
These fucking assholes think that what we've done, what has happened here in the Biden administration is a bailout of some kind, and that's what they think they're arguing against.
Wait. Go. Continue on. I'm just going to make noises at this point until you finish.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get to finish because apparently
just finish.
you've reached the point in the evening where you can't put a cork in it long enough to get to the point of our discussion.
Go.
So,
talk. I'm just going to make angry noises on the
these
side.
These shitheads think that these things are in the same category, so they've created this whole ballyhoo. I keep trying to get you to understand the word that we're working with here about the topic of bailouts and marrying it to student debt relief. And you have a particular dog in this hunt, I would imagine.
Oh, yes.
You're getting some level of relief, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's a little important, and it's not just you. And to
not enough, but
to compare it to a bailout. So the difference here, and David and I very much disagree on the role of higher education in modern American society. David gives it more deference. I consider it a big giant swindle for 90% of the people, and a huge fucking lie that previous generations fed to us and made us go through some motions and complete, which cornered a lot of people into taking on ridiculous amounts of debt to deliver on the shit that their grandmother and their parents told them they fucking had to do, and corporate America told them they had to do. And so since they had to do it, they did all this shit, which is not the same as a bailout with a bunch of risk-taking, gambling pieces of shit in, I don't know, the banking and housing industry, making a bunch of mistakes. Doing shit the way that the generations before you forced you to is not something you get bailed out from. Making a bunch of shitty investments and buying a bunch of bad debt is indeed a mistake that you get bailed out from. So these fuckwits are having the bailout discussion with us about our student debt topic. Now that we've introduced that, David, you say it's helping a little, but you have a little bit larger debt than the average Joe.
I went to law school, so
right.
I mean, my debt is massive.
But I do understand that this has some interest impact. It's not just, hey, here's forgiveness of what is it, 10 grand.
I will not end up when my course of default finally runs its entire process.
Right.
On my law school debt finally runs its course. I will not end up owing the IRS taxes on $500,000. I will still owe them a ridiculous amount of money, but which I will never be able to fucking repay, and the IRS is going to have to suffer and forgive, which is a nice little tool that's there, especially when you don't make enough money. Right. But no, I mean, both those things are good. And I will take a swipe slightly at your whole, like, grandma corporate America said we should do this. Here's the thing. I would argue that everyone should have the opportunity to go to undergrad. Simply because, I had the semi-fortuitous experiences in high school to tell me that I wanted to go into law eventually, and I knew that in order to get into law, and I would argue that it might behoove us to switch to a English system of switching off solicitor and barrister from how we do it right now. But I knew that I wanted to learn law because I had a great experience in high school learning law, right? I went to a national competition for the state of Tennessee for knowledge of constitutional law. We made it into the semifinals.
Well, and you absolutely need to have the higher education platform for what you went into. Not everybody does. These
like I understand what you're talking about, like for your chosen profession. Like, if you know what your profession is out of high school, good on you. You should be able to go to coding school as a trade. You should be able to go to any one of a number of different institutions to teach you an immediate trade. I have no problem with that, except for this one thing. I got to do a lot of things. I went into college an avowed Republican. I came out of college with a Republican with a lot of questions. I went into the Republican Party with those questions and realized that the Republican Party could not answer those questions. And then I had to go find the answers to those questions on my own, and found that no, what you all are telling me, one of the reasons why I am so anti-Republican at this point is because I got the opportunity to have the education that allowed me the space to ask those questions and learn about those questions without ever knowing that necessarily I needed to ask those questions. One of the great things about higher education that I think that most Americans don't understand is that it is an institution to ask questions.
Well,
it is an environment in which
currently in a decreasing frequency, but yes, the ideal.
But it is an institute. They are institutions in which you get the opportunity to both have questions posed to you and ask questions, and then have the room to find answers, both through coursework and through experimentation of, okay, so I want to prove this for this paper. How do I prove that? Oh shit, I can't prove that. I've actually run into that before, of saying that, well, I think I should be able to prove this. This is my hypothesis. My hypothesis didn't work out. Right? I had to change the course of all my work when I realized my hypothesis didn't work. And I understand where Lucas is looking at things, saying like a carpenter doesn't necessarily need to know macroeconomics. I get that.
Well, it's the fact that we took 2 solid generations of shaming people for not doing college.
But
it's not the fact that you couldn't go and become an apprentice in a field. It was the fact that we just threw all the trades out the window because the gimme 80s ushered in this world where you just have to take and get for you, and to get for you have to go to college and learn how to be an asshole investment firm fucking jockey and fuck your fellow man over. And if you don't go to college, then you're a loser and you're doomed to a life of shame and poverty.
And I would argue very much that we need to take stigma out of it. Are there people for which undergrad education is not necessarily helpful? Absolutely. I would argue for a large portion, if not a majority of the population, a sum total of elementary, high school, and undergrad education, I think we could really revolutionize how America functions. But I would argue, number one, we have to make it free.
Yeah, y'all think you don't like forgiveness. Wait till we get to the part where everybody goes to school for free,
right? I think we need to make it free. But the nice thing about an undergrad education is I think that I would be hard pressed to think of an actual good. I'm going to morally qualify good leader in any field in America is without an undergrad education. And we decided that had to be paid for. We decided that we had to take on debt for that. We decided that we had to that you had to repay not society but lenders for the right to contribute to society.
Profiteering interests in the middle. Yeah. Well,
and I think that's where this debt forgiveness lives, is in that, am I necessarily able to use my law school education as a lawyer. No, I'm not. And honestly, for a lot of people who go into law school, that's not where they want to contribute that anyway. On the other hand, I'm able to talk to you all. I'm able to talk to others about what the law says. And I want to be very clear. I'm not offering legal advice. I'm not violating the state's prohibition on practicing without a license. But if someone asks me, how does a contract work? I can tell them.
Right.
How do these things work? And honestly, I feel like society would be better if there were more people like me who said, I want to learn about law, and I should have the freedom to go learn about law without straddling myself to crippling debt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and crippling debt. Imagine if you were just hold up. Imagine if you were able to sit, go talk to your neighbor across the street who might do whatever job he does. Say, hey, you went to law school. I have a legal question. What should I do about this contract? Well, I'm not a lawyer, but if you want, I can review that contract. I can look over this for you.
Basic literacy and competency of contract.
Right. In the same way that that we teach literacy in carpentry or how to repair a car or how to do all these other things. Imagine if we were a society that valued learning, or even, and imagine if you could do the same thing in literature, right? Like, hey, I don't know what to think about this book that I read. First of all, we'd have to get to being a society that actually, that question would be regularly asked. But hey, you study literature. How does this compare to other things? I mean, imagine what that society would look like, because I feel like it would be a friendlier, better society where people didn't feel isolated from knowledge.
And what you say there kind of touches on what I was about to say about the crippling debt as a ball and chain used by the man to make sure that you have to remain an economic slave in the workforce. Not only would your vision, your rather utopian idea, give people the ability to function and interact in a way that broke the shackles, it would threaten those who keep the barriers up. And that's one of the big reasons this shit exists. But as I've hoped to be able to do to you in this bait and switch plan, the bailout ballyhoo that the right wingers tried to start became forgiveness fray. Because these little slime balls have had this shit blow up in their face, and I don't know the name of the person behind the White House Twitter account, but holy shit, they've got the nuts that I need to see on the internet. They're taking all the critics that want to call this a bailout and want to say that people don't deserve it and all the other shit that we'll go through here in a minute when we knock down all these conservative gripes. And they're basically telling people, they're laying bare how much these assholes' PPP loans were forgiven as a response. So the White House Twitter account is knocking them all down. Marjorie Taylor Greene had $183,504 in PPP loans forgiven, and they're retweeting her bitching about the student debt forgiveness. Mike Kelly, $987K. Matt Gaetz, $482K. So it's
Jesus Christ.
It's 482. Like one of those numbers is his preferred dating age for. So it's almost too easy.
I'm sorry
with these fuckers. Like it's almost like you would think, David, that if you were on the right, that you would leave the subject of forgiveness, bailout, any of that. You would just leave it alone. You would just not go there. Because your party has been responsible for the scenarios or the relief handed out to the rich and powerful for so much of human history. You'd think you would just not touch it so that you didn't have to look like a flaming hypocrite in front of the world. But no. They're not that bright, are they?
Now, again, as I mentioned earlier in this show, consequences are not something that Republicans consider. And I also want to point out that the new Republican Party considers the rural poor to be its bread and butter. That's where it's going to make its votes.
Mm-hmm.
And then stripping little bits away on especially economic issues from suburbia. Now, first of all, I want to point out in suburbia, how many of those people have college degrees? A lot. And how many of them just got $10,000 knocked off their debt? A lot. How many of them just had their interest rate capped by Smoking Joe? Which that's I'm just going to smoke Joe.
Well, you know, David, we've been waiting to use it. This is a really good time to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe did that. That's fine. Yeah. Cool. What's great is how much they think this is a bad thing. And to me, how old man Biden had to be even if somebody had to take him into a fucking noogie until he said uncle and agreed to do this, I don't give a shit if it's political. I don't give a shit if it's because the young people won't turn out for us in the fall.
What I feel, and I'm spitballing here. What I feel is Biden's looking at this scenario. I feel like with this, Biden wants to run again. He wants to run again.
You know, I'm happy with him this week, but I'm not that happy.
But I'm just saying, he wants to run again. And how do I get that cornerstone to justify me running again? I forgave student debt. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. Am I?
That you're not wrong.
I feel like because it's always second year. It's always in the president's second year that he has to decide whether or not he's running again. Because then by his third year, he has to have his fundraising machine in full fucking swing. Because it costs now about $1 billion to run for president. So by your second year, you've got to have your fundraising machine fully in swing. What am I fundraising off of?
If he thinks this is the magic bullet, he's absolutely not far enough along. He's got to do more. There's got to be something else.
Oh no, he's got to do more. But on the other hand,
if he ballsed up in Ukraine, then I might would say, all right, fine.
Well, he has ballsed up in Ukraine. He just tossed $3 billion more on the pile.
Well, you know, my definition of ballsing up is shooting down their planes with our planes.
Well,
Russia's planes with our.
We're not going to do that, and we know why we're not going to do that. Should we give the Ukrainians F-16s? Oh, absolutely. I would love to see whatever the Russians are throwing up be like, hey, this is our fighter from 4 generations ago. We built like a whole bunch more since then, but this is our one from 4 generations ago. Do you want to come play with this? Do you want to come play with an F-16 Tomcat? Do you want to?
Well,
do you want to?
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's. I don't know if it's a play for. I think right now it's just a play for November.
But the thing is, here's the thing that Biden gets if he wins.
And it's not just a play; it's real shit. Like
that's real shit. But here's the thing: if Biden wins November, if Biden turns the midterms around, like it seems like he might be doing right now, which is he will still have a Democratic House, still have a Democratic Senate, and an even larger Democratic Senate.
Right.
Then the next reconciliation bill that he puts before that Congress, because it's a new Congress.
Yeah.
Right. So we get 2 new, pass through, no strikes, no fouls, attempts at reconciliation. I could see him coming back with the rest of Build Back Better and especially his third year.
That would fit.
And saying, okay, here's the rest of Build Back Better. Now that I don't have to talk to fucking Manchin or goddamn cinema anymore, because I've got Fetterman in there. I've got I've still got Warnock, and maybe I've got Ryan or what's her name in Florida. I've still got Kelly. I've picked up maybe 1 or 2 senators,
Florida?
maybe 3.
Florida?
What? Huh?
Who's in Florida? What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, Rubio's down.
Oh, you're saying Rubio. Okay, right. Okay, yeah.
So now I've got more Democratic senators.
Well, and Cortez Masto. So,
well, she's already a senator.
Oh, that's right. So she's hanging.
So
Yeah,
it's not a pickup. It's a defense.
Right.
But I can pick up in and even North Carolina. North Carolina is a possible pickup as well. So I've picked up.
Here's what would really be a 2 things would be a big deal for me. If he takes this, wins control, real control, and then they do some actual ramrodding of liberal agenda, because that was my biggest disappointment with him and Papa O is they didn't ramrod while they had the chance.
Well, I mean, imagine if he was able to turn around and that tax credit that Manchin was so pissed off about, the enhancement of the child tax credit. Imagine if he was able to turn around with a reconciliation Senate with 54 senators, which is honestly, when I look at the map and I think about baseline ideal situation, I think we can get to 54. I think 56 would be a stretch, but I think we can do it. If we hit 56 senators, I mean, Manchin and Sinema are no longer an issue on reconciliation.
So here's the other thing.
He can turn around and look at every parent and say, that's $4,000 more off your tax bill.
Right.
He can turn around and look at the Republicans and say, we are going to raise taxes. Like one of the big things that happened with this reconciliation bill was they did not fix the carried interest loophole, nor have we still haven't fixed the whole fucking capital gains tax loophole.
Right.
Which is this: if you earn money off the sale of an investment, that should be regular income, not, oh, well, it's taxed at a lower. No. How much money did you make this year? How much money? That's it. That's the only question I need to ask. How much money touched your bank account this year coming in?
Because it is deeply unfair. If I were to land a branding job for a worldwide brand, my starting rate on that is $10,000. Because it's a worldwide global brand, I'm never going to see another penny. I need to get mine now because it could be the next $1 trillion company.
Yep. And you pay tax on that.
I got to pay taxes for that shit. But some fucking chuckle fuck down the street that has investments makes $10,000, gets a break.
Yeah, and he pays a lower tax rate than you do.
Yeah.
And I think I think this is very calculated. And again, I think it's Biden prepping for another run to say, listen, I did this for you. I'm going to continue to do this for you. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to pay a hell of a lot more attention to his VP candidate than I did before, and I honestly don't think I'm 50-50 on whether or not it'll still be Harris.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that. But let me tell you, the Reconciliation Senate, that's not bad. But I think the real nuke to drop in the mix, because this would be filibuster proof, if he decided after the midterm, picks up some stuff, and to truly be balls out.
Do you want him to pack the court?
I want him to legalize weed.
That wouldn't be filibuster proof.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it would. You don't think they could pick up 8 fucking Republicans that would do it? You on crack, homie. There is no way that there aren't 8 Republicans that would join or 6 Republicans that would join with 54 Democrats to legalize tomorrow.
Collins would be okay with it. Murkowski would be okay with it. Romney would balk. And we'd be done after that. We'd be done after that. Collins and Murkowski would be okay with it. Everyone else would balk.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think that's true.
It's 100% true.
No.
No,
I think it runs deeper than you realize, especially when they can tie it to agriculture.
No, because Lucas, you're flooding our schools with drugs. Lucas, you're handing illicit substances to our children.
Yeah, I get the arguments.
I mean, what I'm saying is
I've been waiting for the Republicans to play on this.
But again, where is the battleground now? The battleground used to be.
Rand Paul would do it. He's a libertarian. They're all about the weed.
He wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole because he's about as libertarian as my left nut.
I would prefer that you compare that to your right nut, because libertarians are just Republicans without the sack to actually do it.
No, but here's the thing: libertarians aren't anything with any sack. They're nut jobs. They are nutters. And you're right. Again, Olivia, you're right. Collins probably would. It's legal in Maine. Yeah, use the fucking taxes to fund mental health, and
or use the taxes for schools. That kind of kills your school argument to some extent. But if he's preparing for a victory lap, that's great. Let's talk about the other before we time ourselves out. Let's talk about the other sinister factor in the right wing feedback on this. The old. Well, everybody else suffered. Everybody that comes after us should suffer too. This one bothers me because I have topics where I feel that way, right? Like public school. I despise homeschool because I think it's a cop-out that everyone should go to public school like I did and suffer the social maladjustment and humiliation that comes with it. You shouldn't be able to stay in your little bubble shelter and fucking stay home and never have to deal with other people in the way they are.
That's not about, I would argue at that point, it's not about suffering. It's about building some sort of objective fucking reality.
I was going to say character. That's where I draw the line, is if it builds character that you're going to need as an adult or any other life stage, then you shouldn't get a break from it.
I mean, again, about objective reality being like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to black people and also Muslims.
Right.
And also Vietnamese people. We as a society, we need you to be familiar with these people, talk to them, and take classes with them and interact socially with them.
For me,
if we don't, then... Well,
it's a lot along the lines of, of course, it's taking the wrong-headed approach to a perfectly reasonable basic notion, which is, I had to cut grass. I had to know how to cut grass. I make my kid help cut grass, but I don't only use the electric battery-powered mower for me and make him use the gas-powered piece of shit. Like, there's a little bit of progress that you can make while still holding up values. And these fucking assholes that claim to be the values party, they don't have any values. They never did. We all knew that. But now they're over here like, I love the comparisons for medical stuff. Like, just because somebody like died of a disease we can cure now, you think everybody needs to die of the same disease? It's just a mind-boggling approach. And most of these fuckwits, most of these knuckle-dragging shitheels saying this shit, they don't have a college degree. They don't have debt. They don't have any of this shit. They don't even know what it's like.
But even that is...
They barely read a book.
Here's the thing, is that they've still taken government assistance, haven't they? They took government assistance someplace. And this is one of my biggest bitches when boomers don't fucking get it. For every dollar that was paid by American citizens to the federal government in the 1960s, all the way up until the 1970s, for every dollar that they paid in, 75 cents came back to the American taxpayer. 75 cents came back to the American taxpayer. The average, in other words, middle class, average American taxpayer, in terms of mortgage assistance, in terms of educational assistance, in terms of guarantees on all sorts of loans and other aspects of everyday American life. 75 cents came back. For my generation, for a millennial, 10 cents. 10 motherfucking cents. 10 goddamn fucking little fucking FDR's head on that tiny ass fucking little silver coin. That's what came back. 10 cents.
and
10 cents as opposed to 75 cents.
Right.
That's how do you want to break that up? That's either 3 of Washington's little fucking head, or like Kennedy's big ass head on that coin, and then another one of the Washingtons, or we can assemble like nickels in a certain configuration.
Right.
I'm like it doesn't matter. 10 cents, 10 cents, and it's only gotten worse since then.
Well, and
And
the
to
thing
look
that,
at these
the thing
people and
that's
be
the
like,
most,
no, the federal government helped you along the way. The federal government was supposed to help college education for everyone along the way. That's what the Pell Grant system was supposed to correct.
well,
right?
the thing that's very fascinating about me for this is the thing that you often point out. Like, the cities finance the shitheels. The cities finance the manure clod hopping fucking idiots that these right wing shitcocks are depending on
Yeah.
to parrot their talking points,
Well,
and
I
the
mean,
people that are working in the cities, running the cities, and making the cities solvent bases of taxes to distribute to these fucking morons
college
are
education.
college educated people with debt. So really, at the end of the day, helping them out helps every fucking buddy, and they're too
Right.
stupid to understand.
I mean, and people will talk about, oh, this will increase inflation. No, this will decrease inflation.
It's a zero on the I read up on that today. It didn't do really either. And if they were smart, they'd be hitting that. If they were smart, they'd be saying, "Oh, you can't say this is an inflation help because it doesn't do anything." Instead, they're saying it's going to up inflation, and then they're just factually fucking wrong. It basically sits at a flat line regarding inflation.
The amount of insanity. Like, I want to take a slide aside for this because I did some research on this, because you mentioned it last episode, and I thought I'd mention it today, just as an aside. The whole 89,000 IRS agents.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 89,000 IRS agents. It's more like 20,000, and it's not even getting them up to the level of staffing that they had in 1992.
Mm-hmm. That's weird. Wait a minute. And up until that point, who was in charge? So yeah, it's very typical of the average clueless dipshit right winger to do the dirty work bidding of the powerful, rich right wing elite. So all these talking points, and mostly the ones that the dipshits on Twitter that are getting roasted by the White House Twitter account, they're just the same stupidity. It just used to be that the people that were elected by the morons weren't the same morons exactly. They weren't wearing it on their sleeve. Now they are. Now you have Marjorie Taylor fucking Greene, who's stupider than her constituency somehow. And then she's out there, all the same fucking bullshit, all the lies, all the falsehoods, all of the misplaced faith that if we just keep getting rich people a break, then we will one day be rich too. If I just bow down to the man, I'll be the man one day too. And so they're all out there doing their bidding. It's embarrassing.
Well, because the thing is, at the end of the day, the whole idea of trickle down economics. I mean, here's the thing:
it's not just trickle down. It's like this general concept that if I shine the Wall Street shoes with my tongue, they'll let me in their club one day. I can be the Jed Clampett that got there.
Well, and here's why that gets really bad. And I'm going to explain this. If you were a shoeshine boy, 19 early 1900s America, how much would they pay you to shine their shoes? A
10
buck?
cents.
50 cents?
I was gonna say less,
Let-
10 cents. I
Let's
feel
call
like
it
I've
10
seen a
cents.
lot of
Let's call it
photographs
10
of
cents. What does that
10
10 cents buy you? What would like for that? What, let's call it 5 minutes of work.
a fucking movie ticket then.
Yeah, you buy a whole fucking movie ticket. How many hours would a minimum wage American have to work to buy not a primetime movie ticket, but a matinee, which there are still discounted.
2 hours in most communities.
No, not most communities. Not if you're earning minimum wage.
It's $14 on average for a matinee ticket and $7 minimum wage.
It's $7.25,
Yeah.
right? Minimum wage. $14, at least in my community, is not the matinee ticket.
Yeah, but
Matinee ticket is $18.
you're talking about Nashville prices, David.
Well, it's true, not Nashville prices, but again, like in Nashville,
I have escaped the orbit and now understand what movies are supposed to cost
or
in theaters that are better than Nashville.
probably
Makes no sense. It's the upside down.
it's the upside down.
The best movie theater I've ever been to in my life is downtown first. Imagine that shit. Nashville hasn't enjoyed that for 40 years. And it's fucking phenomenal and it's cheaper. But
Yeah.
I see, your point still
hours.
stands. You could say 2 to 3 hours of work for the average American making minimum wage. Just
Whereas
to
a shoe shine boy in that amount of time could have earned 10 movie tickets.
Yeah, right.
And there's a disconnect, really, in what people are paying and what things cost.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really translate very well to a lot of people in my city, right? I am very blessed, actually, to work on the east side of town, because on my side of town, gas costs still $3.70. On the east side of town, in the poor part of the town where I work, gas costs $3.15.
Kind of poor. East Nashville's plenty bougie and got plenty of overpriced.
It's working its way there. The thing is, I would argue a lot of it is a lie. A lot of East Nashville, now that I've been there for a while, a lot of East Nashville is a vicious lie. More so than I ever realized, having not lived there or worked there. It is a situation. Imagine what you would experience next to TSU, where people would buy houses for $700,000, $800,000, even $1 million, and then suddenly realize they were kind of in the hood.
Yeah.
It's that much worse in East Nashville.
Well, it's the same kind of patchy, spotty issue.
But it's a lot worse. Well, because Airbnb was right there with the regeneration of East Nashville.
Right.
So it's a lot more sketchy because no one actually lives there, right? It's just tourists popping into a very nice house that is, every
to find out that they may not want to walk down the street to get to the bar that evening.
Right.
Which is really kind of we're playing up to a stereotypical scenario. It's not like a total fucking gang war zone, but
no,
but there's the average person's perception matters in this discussion, and that's happening to a lot of people. They buy from out of town, sight unseen. They get there, they start moving in, they step out on the sidewalk and go, and it may not be applicable. I mean, fuck, the neighborhood you referenced that we lived in was a place I was always led to believe by my white friends and white family growing up. We don't, you get out of there pretty quick. And then I fucking lived there for 7 years and it was fine.
Yeah.
We need more of that view of cities and culture. Let's jerk the steering wheel back to the last piece of this fucking horse shit, which is the way these people were just fine every time we handed out money to corporate America. Well, the way these people were just fine when we bailed out all kinds of industries, when we gave all kinds of tax breaks to the rich, but now a little crumb, because this is a crumb, is given to student debt that overall helps everybody.
It is a problem, and I would argue that the only way to solve the student debt problem is to either allow it to be discharged in bankruptcy, at which point I would declare bankruptcy tomorrow, or to just forgive the whole bailiwick, man. I mean, this experiment with private lending for education, I think we need to call an overall failure.
Yeah, proved. Let me ask you this. All these people that say, because I actually have been wanting to know your take on this, because I think you'll have an insight given your more economics depth. All these people say, well, it's got to go somewhere. Now you and me are going to have to pay it. So when
we're already paying it,
when the debt's forgiven, okay, it doesn't just evaporate into thin air, but this notion that all of a sudden
it kind of does.
But this notion that all of a sudden you and me are going to find some hidden, me, because I don't have student debt, from you getting forgiveness, I'm going to somehow find some kind of hardship somewhere that's going to get reassigned.
Okay, so so here's how he's able to do this through executive order and not act of Congress. These are federally backed loans, right? That the federal government would buy up and hold, right? So that people could go to college. So the federal government is essentially, that they may not be the first lender, but they are now currently the holder of the debt. Now, what does the federal government do with that debt? Nothing. They don't do anything with it. It's not held as they don't sell it. They don't turn around and sell it as commercial paper. They don't turn around, like they don't do anything with it. Like, again, like, trust me, the debt industry in America would be wholly different if the federal government turned around and sold private debts that it held against citizens as commercial paper. Which, for those of you who don't understand how that works, when you don't pay your credit card for a while, or your student loan or whatever, they give up and they sell the debt. And I want to be very clear what happens at that point, which is, first of all, they declare the entire value of your debt as a tax deduction against whatever taxes they would owe on their profits. So that's number one. Even though they just sold your debt for money, hospitals do the same thing. Anyone who holds significant debt and they can't collect, because they can't send you to debtor's prison unless you're in Alabama, literally. No, because Alabama does indeed have a debtor's prison. So does Missouri. They do have debtor's prison, which is shocking and terrifying, and we should stop that. But they turn around and they sell your debt for probably about 10 to 20% of whatever its face value is. So they've already gotten 10 to 20% of the face value of your debt, regardless of how much you've paid. You could be within one payment of finishing. It doesn't matter. The face value of your debt is now worth 20% of whatever it's worth. And what are called collections companies buy this debt. And then they make it their business to fuck with you. Right?
Right.
I cannot tell you, as someone who has problems with his student loan debt, how many angry calls I used to get before Biden paused payments. About, and it's all about a moral obligation to repay this debt. I'm like, I don't have a moral obligation to fucking repay you. I took this debt and the expectation that something would happen, and the thing that I expected to happen didn't happen. So,
not just expected. You leave the space there for the the right-wing morons that are so loud today, to say that you had a foolish expectation. You were lied to. It's important that we understand that society lied to people.
If society lied to me, then that's another expectation of I should be able to discharge this debt And I've actually run into that before because I was expecting a large payout from a job, right? And I took on a large amount of credit card debt, an expectation of a payout for a job. $10,000, and I'll be very clear: $10,000 worth of debt. I had to report that when I went to go sit for the bar the first time. I had to report that I had taken out $10,000 worth of debt, and I was only able to repay 6,000 of it. Right? Well, do you feel morally bad that they had to settle with you for 6,000? No, I don't feel bad because the credit card company that issued me the credit card, on which I ran up $10,000 worth of debt, got to claim the entire $10,000 as a tax write-off.
The richer usually safety netted somehow.
The collections company paid at most maybe anywhere between $500 to $1,000 for my commercial paper, and then collected from that $6,000. So they made a profit of 500% off my debt. And the credit card company didn't lose anything because they claimed my debt as a complete loss. So they saved $10,000 on their taxes. So no one lost any money except for me.
And that's really, at the end of the day, what the manipulative puppet masters in the right need, is to continue to play the game in a way that the regular guy, lose, they win, and then their minions, the even more regular stupidity that we see driving about, goes and does their bidding and throws a fit.
I'm going to come back to this, though, real fast, about how people understanding how commercial debt works. When your house gets foreclosed on and you lose your house, right? And the bank gets paid whatever the auction price was. Let's say you have a 500, like here in Nashville, let's say you have a $500,000 house. That's likely, right? You can't pay the note anymore. You get foreclosed on. You lose the house. And by the way, you've been trying to pay the entire time. So let's call like what's left on the mortgage with interest let's call it about another $400,000 that you owe on the house. I want to point out that $400,000, you've already paid $250,000 in the house. So the bank is only out $250,000.
Right.
But they were expecting another $250,000 in interest payments over the course of the loan. So the bank is realistically only out $250,000. They're going to turn around and sell that house for $300,000, but they're going to take not only what they loaned you, which was the $500,000, but also the interest that they expected to receive, which is, again, let's be generous and call it another $250,000. They're going to claim all that as a loss on their taxes. So whatever tax the bank would have owed,
it's a wash
on your house, is paid for and then some.
Yeah.
So cash in hand, they lost $250,000, but they gained in total the entire value of your loan and tax deduction. So in other words, wherever else they made profit, they didn't have to pay taxes on that profit. So that point, the bank is not
prevailed to be this way if it didn't benefit these assholes. I mean,
the bank at that point, I want to point out, the bank has not lost money. They've only gained money because then they sold your house at auction for another $250,000. So the bank is up total $250,000 on making a bad loan.
Yeah, pretty much.
So this entire idea of there is a moral obligation to repay your debts in America is bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit. It's the epitome of fucking bullshit.
Well, and it's part of that overall scheme that the powerful and rich have enjoyed pushing on humanity, which is marrying a very sinister business concept with some higher minded mission. And that's why I think you get all this motivation by the rabble to go and trash this. But I'm sitting here in fucking Michigan. I'm wearing a shirt from fucking Detroit, and I consider every single person I know who had some debt forgiven not even remotely even yet with the auto industry's bailouts. And I'm comfortable still supporting a little something for the regular guy for a fucking change. But we're going to bail out of this show and let everybody get on with their evening. We do appreciate everybody for spending time here, even if you are a closet Q hanging out in the dark recesses, just keeping an eye on us to make sure that we don't kill too many babies or hump too many trees on your watch, you American centuries, you. So go get your moonshine and calm the fuck down and polish some guns, because we're going to sign off. Clutch your Bibles and look forward to seeing us next week. Now, David, you're basically on your own next week, but I may arrange some kind of weird... I might have to arrange a weird cameo from Dragon Con, but I'm going to be in Atlanta with all the nerds.
It's not going to be a weird cameo. You sit your happy ass down with a fucking laptop and you fucking chime in. Honestly, because it'll be great from Dragon Con. And honestly, it'll be a lot of fun if with you chiming in from Dragon Con.
We'll have to see what the facilities are like at the time, but we'll make that plan and we'll let everybody know how it's going to go. But we'll see you next week. And as always, there's only one way out of this, David. Good night.
Good evening.
And good luck.
Good luck.